Okay, so I've started the recording. I'm just carrying on with the third session of the professional supervisor. We're on section 2 of the course, and I'm just pulling up my slides again. And we've been going through the differences, the key differences between a group and a team, and why it is so very important that we focus on developing teams within our organizations. I'm just going to start my slides and share my computer, and then we will carry on. Okay, so we were last looking at a summary of teams. Okay, I think we finished that one. So because of the key attributes of a team, that affects its structure. And one of the key influences, if you want to build a team, you're going to have to keep the group size small. So an effective team is usually between 5 and 12 members. I wouldn't go beyond 9 for an effective team. If it gets to 12, I would break it into 2, 6 and 6. So keep that in mind when you're building your teams. Try and keep them small. I'd rather have more small teams than one very large group. Okay, there's a sense of shared leadership and responsibility. You might still appoint someone as a leader role or a team lead, but ultimately you're wanting to empower so that everybody in that team can help and change roles and swap and share the load, because ultimately every one of them has got to be committed to reach the goals. There is role allocation, and we're going to talk about very generic team roles that every team needs to have according to research. Usually in a team, you can have quite varied skills levels. So you have to fulfill the different roles needed for that job. So you might have a welder and a technician and a battery specialist or whatever it is. You've got multiple different technical skills, but equal value. So there's a sense that every member of the team is important. And when I go back to the family example, I find this particularly useful, that even children need to know that they're a valued member of the team and they have a valued role to play, and they have they can contribute positively. And even if somebody is not able to do much, but they can contribute with positive input by encouraging the team, by being a good team player because they listen well and they harmonize. So everyone has got a role to play, but we mustn't devalue because somebody maybe doesn't have a skills that others have. They could, somebody with high skills can teach and mentor people with low skills levels. So everybody has got a role to play, both technically and to harmonize and blend and keep that team working and efficiently. And we'll see when we get to the team rules that you want to establish, that one of the key things we as leaders need to instill in our team members is the idea that team is important and that every one of us has got to build that team. The same way in a family, everyone needs to care about whether that family is cohesive. And if you're not happy with the family, well, what are you doing to build a happy family? You know what I mean? If you're complaining and saying it's not fair, we don't even, bring some productive ideas of how we can be more of a fun family, or how we can be more of a caring family, or whatever it is, because people change and roles change and goals change, and teams need to get together and refine and re-establish and reset goals. And as the market changes, as the circumstances changes, all sorts of things happen. There's a constant shifting and redistributing of the weight of the group, but everybody has got a part to play. And successful families, I think, are those that are able to blend all the roles together, all the people, all the different, because every family's got different personalities. You don't choose your family. There they are.
True.
You've got to make the best of it. But we can all learn to be better team members, better family members. You know what I mean? And do things that make it easy for others to blend and harmonize with you. Whereas if you are a lone ranger and you really just want to go your own way, it makes it very hard to keep you in the team. And if you want to go on your own, that's fine, but then you lose the benefits of team, you see. So people have learned to work in teams because there are benefits to being in a team. So for example, if you are sick, somebody else can do your job and you'll still get paid and the job will still get done. Whereas if you're on your own, if you have a down day, well, tough luck. Nobody's going to pay you for the day that you're not there. So there are benefits to being together. And the same with a family. Yes, it's slower to make decisions. Yes, you have to consider everybody, and we've got to consider Granny, who's can't walk so fast and his legs are weak and his hearing's not so good. But hey, when you're sick, Granny's the one who makes soup and feeds you. You know what I mean? Granny's the one who polishes your school shoes, or I mean, all these things that we don't always add up to what makes a team happy or productive. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
okay, so we need to have this very much this concept that everybody's got a value. And I remember as a young mom that came home to me so clearly. Those early days are so tough when you work so hard feeding and clothing and keeping this baby alive, and you have so little time. And I remember in the early months, my daughter was crawling, so she must be about 8 months old, and I kind of in the back of my mind was thinking, geez, do you ever see any benefit to this? It's just one never-ending treadmill of flipping hard work. And I'd been looking for my car keys, and I'd lost them, and I didn't know where they were. And my little toddler crawled up holding my car keys at the very moment when I needed them. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, you do have value. You need to, as much as it. Now, obviously, in the early days, it's very intensive. It's mostly you giving to them. But they do start to give back, and they learn to give back, and they give more and more. And you know what? Later on, when they've grown up and they're productive, then that's when you really reap the rewards of,
Yes.
So, in the same way as a team leader, we invest in our people. We build them up so that, hey, the whole company grows, people grow, and, you hopefully will be at a position where there'll be such a strong functioning team that you can actually maybe manage another team, and you only have to check in on them every now and then. So there is benefits and trade-offs to developing people. Okay, and in team structure, just the last thing here is that the leadership style can vary quite a lot in a team. From there almost not being any one clear leader, they're all so self-managed together, to having quite a strong leader. It just really depends. So the main thing is those degrees of trust and of listening and of equal value and of safety to talk and to share ideas openly. Okay.
Yes.
So let's take it now to teams in business. Do we see teams in business? And actually we do in quite a few circumstances. So I'm first going to ask you, Loretta, in your business, I know that you have your mast installation teams. Are there any other teams in your business that you can tell me about?
No, I only had that team.
Okay.
Though while I was working for the company, there were different teams. So there was your mast installation team, and then the team that works in the workshop for manufacturing the masts.
Right. So that's quite an important team as well.
And then you had, and then you had your administrators in the office. Okay. Which were made up of 3 people for 4 people at some point. So,
okay,
yeah.
So that's an admin team, okay, who support the functions. Okay. All right. So some examples here, they talk about quality circles, and some companies have them, they're almost like a team that just monitors quality in a company or whatever it is. You can have production line teams, pretty much what you're saying. Your manufacturing team is a team, and often in manufacturing, they work very closely together because it depends on their shift work and that team in minds, and that they really deliver. And they usually become very strongly bound together, highly effective teams. In a company, you could have a training forum, almost like a bit of a training committee, and that can be either a group or a team. It really depends. You can have self-managed work teams, like in the Agile Scrum IT development, software development world. You have Agile teams, and they are very highly skilled cross-functional teams, and they just, able to self-organize and deliver product. You get problem-solving teams. So teams that only come together when, okay, there's an issue, we need to solve it. So they might come out of different departments and they investigate, and almost like in a sense, a Zonda commission is a little bit like that. They kind of have a very set goal. They have to produce that report at the end. They have to examine the evidence, and they're given a time box in which to do it in. So that's an example of a problem-solving team or an investigative team. You get cross-functional teams. So they, like I said, come from different businesses. So you might have, for example, the teams now working intergovernmentally to vaccinate. They will come from different departments, different areas of science and medicine, and they will work together for a particular goal of getting those vaccines out. You can also have study groups, or almost like research groups trying to understand something. So there's many different team structures in an organization. Some are also permanent teams. So your production line teams, they're always the same team working with minimal changes over time. Some are for a particular time and then they break apart. It really just depends on your business. Okay, so here's where we get to, there was a researcher, Meredith Belson, who came up with, after researching and looking at teams, with some key roles. So these are generic roles. It's almost like there's always, in a rugby team, there's always got to be a tight prop head, or whatever they call them, and there's always got to be a forward, and there's always got to be, you know what I mean, they've got key roles and different people play them. Well, in teams, he said that there always have to be these 4 key roles. So one is a creator role, and that can be one person or multiple people. So these are the ones who kind of they originate, they're the idea person. They're the ones who try and come up with or discover ideas. So you need people who can be that in a team, who can come up with new ideas and be creative. You get people who are the leaders, the team leaders. So they're the ones who coordinate and shape the group. They say, right, we're meeting here, we're going there, you're doing this. They direct, okay, which is pretty much the role you take in a team. Maybe there's other people who share that role in your teams. Then you get the implementers. These are the ones who kind of, they build the team, they get the team working, they support the team, they find practical applications of ideas. So they're kind of the doers. Okay, so the creator comes up with an idea, the implementer will say, oh, no, we can do it like this. And they get going. And then you get the completers. Okay, these are the ones who check, who finish up with attention to detail. They monitor and evaluate. They test ideas critically in detail. They're sort of the more analytical thinkers, and that kind of thing. So we need all of these kinds of roles in a group. If you only have a team of creators, not much is actually going to get done. Usually you have much more implementers and 1 or 2 completers who sort of test and evaluate or think outside the box, and at least 1 leader. And sometimes people share these roles. And sometimes you need to say, okay, let's just all be creative. We've got a problem, let's come up with ideas. But usually you have at least each of these roles covered, even if one person maybe does more than 1 role. Okay, they might both be the leader and help to implement something. Okay, if you're looking at your team that you've got, Lerato, do you see any people in it that are the creators?
Yes, I think they change roles amongst the team, so you don't get one guy being the creator all the time.
Excellent.
So you get creators depending on what the task is.
Yes.
So then, you know, because there's they're open to voicing out their opinion and their suggestions, then you get a different number of creators within the group at a particular time. So you don't get one person coming up with ideas all the time. No.
Okay,
so,
good.
Yeah.
And leaders, can you see clearly anybody or any multiple people taking on that role, being a leader?
Correct. Usually though, you then have people that you normally delegate to, and then they've assumed those roles of being leaders within the team. So yes, you do, but then there's also limited, because then you can't get everyone, you can't have everyone being a leader in the team, you know.
You're
so
right.
you limit it to people that are mostly proactive and know what they're doing in terms of the work, and can get the team members together and are equally respected within the team as leaders.
I love that. So you can't actually expect someone to lead whom the team doesn't actually respect. It won't work. They won't follow. They won't listen.
Correct.
No.
Correct.
Any implementers? Can you identify the people who are the implementers?
Yeah, I guess there are implementers, but then you get most of them being implementers, because then they know that the work has to be done.
Yes.
So then build a supporting structure for the entire team. So you get almost all of them being implementers.
Great. And then the completers who evaluates or tests critically or looks at the details.
Yeah, mostly that would be the leaders.
Okay.
Again, assuming the role of being completers.
Great.
Because then they have to oversee, because they've been delegated to do this task.
Yeah.
They have to oversee, and then at the end ensure that things are done as they should have been done and to the standards that it should have been done.
No.
So yeah.
Okay, so you
get leaders being completers as well.
Great. Okay, lovely. All right. So look, there are other team roles. This is by no means definitive, but in the research he said you needed to at least have these to have an effective running team.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me, Loretta? How is our... All right, we're carrying on with our team leader. Team characteristics and team roles. Okay, so teams have those 4 roles, being the implementer and the creator and those sort of roles, but they also have responsibilities. So it's good to actually define to a team what you expect of them, what are they responsible for, and here's some generic responsibilities. So you need to have a customer service attitude. You need to care about your customer, whoever that is. Perhaps your team is serving internal business customers or external business customers, doesn't matter. There needs to be a code of conduct in teams where they understand that they must treat members with respect and value each other and maintain that team trust. So they need some sort of commitment to how they're going to communicate in the team. They need to contribute fully and communicate openly. They need to be open to others' ideas. And they need to acknowledge their own failures and mistakes and any effect it has on the team. So there's the concept of extreme ownership. You might have heard of it, which the US Navy SEALs kind of teach each other, that the problem is your problem. You own the problem, even if it's a group's problem, and you will do everything you can to kind of resolve it. So that sense of extreme ownership, in other words, you're fully committed to own the mistakes that you have made and to do whatever it is to make your team effective. Right, you need to know your role and your tasks. You need to be as a team member, you need to know what it is that you have to do. And you need to be prepared or open to cover other roles where necessary. So you cover for your team. The main thing is the communication. It needs to be communicate well, communicate often, rich communication, sufficient communication. So everybody understands what you're doing and if there's any problems. So to be a good team member, these are kind of your responsibilities, apart from even just doing your tasks. Do you have anything to add to these, Loretta? Any responsibility you would add?
No, it pretty much sums up what the responsibilities that I know a team member should have.
Often we don't actually say this though. We talk more in the job description about, well, you must, install pipes or whatever it is, but we don't talk about some of these other aspects, responsibilities to the team, to be a good team member. And sometimes it's a good thing to step away and say, guys, this is what I expect of a team member. This is almost like a code of ethics of how to participate well in teams. Okay, so you really need to be a responsible team member. And in your notes, in your manual, there's quite a big section on being a responsible team member. I'm just going to tell you where you will find it. Okay, it's on page, oh gosh, my page numbers are covered up here. It's page 49. Talks about some of the responsibilities. Okay, so to be responsible means you're going to commit to the work that your team needs to do together. You need to follow, to make sure that you follow up. What's happening? Sorry, I need to just, the chat's in the way. All team members need to make sure that they are working towards the same goals and purposes. And so, yeah, sometimes there's difficult things that need to be done, and there needs to be a sense of fairness, that not one team members carrying all the others. Just like a family, if one family member gets sick, you kind of cover for them, and then when you're sick, they cover for you. There's a sharing of the load. There's not just one person who's the workhorse that you flog to death, you know. And so there's that, we automatically have a sense of fairness as humans, to carry our weight and to help the team. So we take turns doing the hard jobs, in the benefit of the team. We encourage and support and praise each other. Those are your responsibilities of being a good team member. So if you look at that cord behind there of all those strands woven together, you know, there's sort of beauty in the different colors, the differences, and that kind of thing. But if one is kind of all worn and tired, hopefully the strength of the others will hold it together while it can get repaired or what it is. So yeah, and you know, to build a happy team, it's all of our responsibilities, not just the team leader, to build a happy team. And we're going to talk about some of those soft skills about how to build a happy team. So I want to ask you, Loretta, what does your manager do that makes you feel noticed or valued? Does he ever praise you or reward you when you've done a good job?
Well, he's a tough man to please, but now and then he praise it and say, wow, that's good work. But he doesn't dwell on what you did. It's rather what you're going to do next. It's like, okay, moving on. So he moves on very quickly from what you did to the next thing. So okay, yeah, good. It's good that you did that work so good. Can you make sure then that the next work you do it equally good or even better?
How does that make you feel?
Well, I think I've learned to roll with the punches. Just know that what
This is the way
matters is what you do next, not what you did previously. So yeah.
Oh, shame. Okay, so he tries to acknowledge your good behavior, your good work. Sorry, not behavior, your good work. But yeah,
he does try to acknowledge good work.
Okay. But I hear almost between the lines, he could possibly do it a little bit better. Is that right? He could possibly just it not be.
Of course.
Yeah.
So he will say it in between the lines.
Yeah.
So he will praise in between the lines.
Okay. Yeah, whereas sometimes actually just saying it for what it is in the moment is useful. You know, for someone to say, well done, you did a really great job, I'm proud of you, thank you. You know, to kind of hear that, and they say, right, let's move on to the next thing. You know, you kind of need to, to celebrate your success. And then my question to you is, are you praising your team when they do a good job?
I guess not as often as I should, but I do. Wow. I mean, we work sometimes under strict deadlines, and conditions are not so good in terms of we might be under a bit of pressure to do the work with sometimes limited resources, you know, and they pull the job off very, very well. So I will thank them and I will praise them, but I think I could do better, to be quite honest.
Okay. Well, there's always room to grow. Hey, I suppose in the same way that you know, you need to hear that endorsement from your boss, they probably need to hear it from you as well. And the amazing thing is that some people don't realize how important and how powerful
from me, yes.
You know, and his boss thinks, well, you know, you did a good job. You know, some bosses only tell you when you do a bad job. But there needs to be a balance. You know?
Yes, it's true.
And some people thrive on that feedback because actually, we all actually want to know that we're doing a good job. All of us we invest something of ourselves in the job we do. And, you know, people are different and they've got a different need for that praise and that acknowledgement, but everybody does, to some extent, need acknowledgement for what they do. So thank you, did a great job, well done. Just lifts your spirit, it encourages you, it makes you feel seen and
true.
acknowledged and valued. And yeah, so we as leaders need to learn to be generous with our praise for our team. And we need to also defend the team to management, like that slide I shared earlier. So when your team does a good job, you need to praise them to management. Say, I was really proud of my team. They did a really good job. They came through. You know what I mean? And even say it publicly in front of the manager, say, I'm proud of this team. They did a good job. You, in a sense, you're modeling the kind of behavior you want them to also emulate. So the best way to get to change a culture is to be the culture you want to be, to emulate that. And yeah, so I know there's a management guy in the States, and one of his key tips is to say, catch your employees doing something right every day and tell them and praise them for it. You know, and even the little things, thank you, you know, you just really cleaned this kitchen so beautifully, thank you, you know, or wow, you made that was such a lovely cup of tea, I so appreciated that, thank you, you know. So people just need to know that they are seen and acknowledged right through the organization, that everybody is important and listened to and valued. And we emulate that when we treat people with respect and listen to them and value them. And other side to that is being a responsible team member is owning your faults and making it safe to say, look, I'm sorry, I blew it. I didn't manage to get that report done, or I'm sorry, guys, I let you down. I'm trying my best. If you are able to acknowledge that, you make it safe for them to acknowledge their mistakes. You make it kind of, okay, right, we acknowledge it, we're moving on. So yeah, so much of the theory or the best practice on leadership is how we behave and how we emulate what we want our workplaces to be. Okay, so there's some tips there in that learner guide as well. There's one or two that, in terms of being a responsible team member, there's being supportive of the team. In the same way, if you're a team member, you represent that team to the world. So represent them as best you can. If you've got, if your team is not doing well, you speak to the team. Say, guys, let's do better. If your team's doing well, you praise them. And that little golden nugget rule, you know, as a parent, if you need to praise publicly, but correct privately. So if your child needs to change their behavior, you do that privately, one-on-one or with them, not in public. But if they're doing well, you praise them publicly. So you kind of, in a sense, protect their dignity, protect their personhood. What's the word? You're their best cheerleader. Oh dear, I lost you. Right, the last section that we're going to deal with is setting the rules for team behavior. So if we now understand what it is that we need to, or the value of a team, and why setting a team makes us so much more productive in the workplace, and that there's healthier relationships when there's teams, sometimes the best way in order to help people understand their responsibilities and to ensure that people behave in ways that build the team is to establish some very clear rules or guidelines for behavior in your team. So it's a very good idea that we set these rules for behavior. So, and you can even do it collaboratively with your team, where you say, right, this is the kind of team we want to be. What are some of the ground rules we should establish? And some of the good ones are, well, there's no such thing as a stupid question. You can ask any question. Raise your questions you want to hear. Another one is to have very general positive rules, like to participate fully in all meetings, to give your opinion. Another one is to make sure that you communicate well, to let us know if you're not able to fulfill an obligation, so the team is able to step in and take over. So whatever those rules are, we need to clarify what our rules are. So for example, we have a check-in meeting every morning between 8 and 8:15. We let our supervisor know as soon as possible when there's a problem. We never badmouth our team to outsiders. We are going to do our best to build a positive atmosphere and to resolve conflict quickly. Whatever those rules are, you need to establish them. I think it helps everyone feel safe, and it becomes a guide that you can return to and say, oh, we're breaking one of our rules, or remember, we're not allowed to interrupt each other, or whatever it is, whatever social rules or norms are needed to help that team function effectively. It's a good idea to have clarified that and to have written up a little rules document and make sure that everyone has buy-in to that. Lovely. That takes us now to the section to do formatives number 2. And that formative is in your POE guide, and you'll be able to work through that now and answer based on what we have covered so far. I'm going to break now, and we will resume again for section 3 of the course in the next session. Thank you.